Like any game setting with RPG elements, Legend of the Five Rings allows for a great degree of specialization. This specialization takes the form of the different schools, essentially places where your character can gain certain skills. And if you want to acquire skills that are super special, you can opt for more advanced training techniques known as paths. Of course, what skills you want to acquire kind of depends on your character class. Yet another example of the RPG elements of L5R. There are technically several different classes like monks or artisans, but as a general rule, it kind of all falls into three very broad categories. The Bushi, which is your obvious fighter class, the Shugenja, that are your magician class, and the Courtiers, which is basically your social class. Of course, each clan has its own schools, and each school has its own particular techniques that you can learn. This video will be about the schools and paths of the Tortoise clan. As minor clans go, the Tortoise have always been quite unusual. While they are a mixture of Bushi and Courtier, that is only the public facade that the minor clan puts forward. What they're really known for is something that only players of the game and the Hantei emperors ever knew about them. The fact that the Tortoise are essentially spies with ties to the criminal underworld. In this respect, despite being founded by a Dragon Clan Shugenja from a mixture of Gaijin refugees and Yasuki merchants, they're kind of like a smaller, less potent version of the Scorpion clan. But either way, let us begin with the public face before we begin peeling back the facade. First, the Kasuga Bushi, regarded throughout the Empire as the most disreputable of warriors. And that's something considering that the Scorpion clan exists. As a result of this, Kasuga Bushi more often than not acted in secret rather than in the open, and, as per their maritime origins, have been trained to fight on both land and sea. They are schooled in techniques like Ride the Pitching Deck, which emphasizes agility and trains the Kasuga Bushi to navigate his way effectively not only on sea or on land, but in the criminal underworld that their clan often frequents. Fortune's Favor, a technique which emphasizes teaching Kasuga Bushi in how to fight with the weapons employed by peasants. This speaks quite clearly to the Tortoise clan's disregard for the conventional idea of honor, as most samurai would consider it beneath them to employ such lowly implements in combat. However, a lot of Kasuga Bushi techniques involve the employment of stealth, such as hide in plain sight, which the Tortoise employ to go unseen and overlooked by others so that he may strike when their enemies least expect. That said, while Kasuga Bushi prefer to fight only as a last resort, they are also trained to be prepared for that eventuality, with techniques like the Strike of the Snapping Turtle, which allows the Kasuga Bushi to strike so fast that their enemy has no time to retaliate. Then there is the matter of the Kasuga Courtier, a far more familiar sight to those who interact with the Tortoise clan. The goal of the Kasuga Courtier can be summed up as follows. Protect the Emperor's honor by doing his dirty work. In the aftermath of the Battle of the White Stag, Agasha Kasuga, founder of the clan, conceived of the idea that in order to defend itself against threats from Gaijin overseas, the Tortoise clan, by necessity, would need to do certain clandestine things that went against imperial law. Hence, when he revealed what his clan had done to then Empress Retsuhime, he also offered to commit seppuku in recompense for violating imperial law. Every Kizoku of the Tortoise clan has done as much whenever a new emperor took the throne, and so far, not a single offer of seppuku has been accepted. That alone tells you just how much the emperors have valued the services that the Tortoise clan perform. Certainly the Kasuga Courtiers do nothing to dispel the perception of them and their clan as disreputable, employing techniques like the Way of the Tortoise, in which the courtier is taught to master the shadier aspects of the clan and its activities. The Tortoise Shell, in which they are taught ways of keeping secrets from others, and the Tortoise Smiles, where the courtier learns how to use underhanded methods effectively when they are most needed. The third and final school of the Tortoise clan is technically counted as a Bushi school, but really doesn't fit that rigid categorization, and that is the Kasuga Smuggler. If the Kasuga Courtier is the public face of the clan, the smuggler is often the dirty but necessary reality. The Tortoise clan learned very early on that the best way to perform its duty of spying on gaijin would mean to get into the smuggling business, and thus to make connections to the criminal underworld. Thus, again, it must be said in complete defiance of imperial decree, however, with the knowing, albeit secret consent of the emperor, the Tortoise clan engaged in smuggling and secret trade with gaijin merchants over the seas. And it is through their smuggling operations that the Tortoise clan keeps an eye on these foreigners and makes sure that they do not in fact pose a threat to the empire. Despite being technically labeled a Bushi school, the smugglers share many techniques with the Kasuga Courtier, although their versions are slightly different. For example, their version of Way of the Tortoise emphasizes attaining fluency in the various gaijin languages. Meanwhile, the technique Eyes of the Emperor teaches the smuggler to employ even the lowliest, dirtiest tactics in pursuance of their duty. But even dirty tricks can only get you so far in a fight, if such a thing should occur. And this is why Kasuga Smugglers are often accompanied by the first of the Tortoise clan paths, the Tortoise Guard, whose job is literally just to protect the Kasuga Smugglers, and in keeping with the overall theme of the Tortoise clan, have no compunction against using dishonorable, dirty tactics to win a fight. Their only known technique, the Path of One, emphasizes the use of peasant weapons in melee combat. But of course, if we're talking about dirty and dishonorable tactics, what could come more naturally to the Tortoise clan than the way of the assassin? Hence, the Tortoise Killer. In fact, the two paths have a great deal of overlap, many Tortoise Killers assuming the role of a Tortoise Guard, so that they might get the drop on their enemies when they least expect them, while others conceal themselves within the ranks of the ordinary Tortoise clan merchants and sailors. Their only known technique, the Poisoned Frog, teaches them how to dispose of an enemy with anything convenient to hand while maintaining their cover. Essentially, if the Hitman series were ever set in fantasy feudal Japan, Agent 47 would very much fit right in as a Tortoise Killer. However, the Tortoise clan learned early on that weapons are not the only way that one may destroy the opposition. Hence, the final path, and the one that is perhaps most emblematic of the Tortoise clan ethos, the Kasuga Deceiver, where the Tortoise Guard and Tortoise Killer use weapons to strike down their targets. The Deceiver employs words and information. Such things, too, are weapons, arguably even more suited to the Tortoise clan than blades or clubs, for after all, destroying an enemy with words means destroying an enemy without leaving evidence of their deeds. A combination of spy and courtier, the Kasuga Deceiver uses whatever methods necessary to uncover damaging secrets against their enemies, and then use those secrets to annihilate them, metaphorically. It does beg the question, though. Rokugan is a land where honor is the greatest currency of all. How do the Tortoise clan find it in themselves to continuously and casually sacrifice their honor in the name of duty? Possibly an answer exists in the only known Kasuga Deceiver technique, Dishonor's Harvest. It teaches the Kasuga Deceiver that their purpose is to champion the interests of their clan with no regard for their personal honor. Once again, we can see the obvious parallel between the Tortoise and Scorpion clans. But where the Scorpion clan turns its eyes inward, seeking the traitor within as the great threat to the empire, the Tortoise clan faces outward, seeking the enemy without as the great threat. Despite being such a big country, Rokugan is very, very geographically isolated, and so the Tortoise clan simply aren't nearly as prominent as the Scorpion. Rokugan is bounded by mountains to the north, deserts and steppe country to the west, the Shadowlands to the south, and the sea to the east. The sea is actually the safest way to get to the empire from foreign lands, hence the Tortoise's maritime focus. Of course, following the Battle of the White Stag, there wouldn't be a major conflict between Rokugan and a foreign country for many, many centuries. And so, the other clans look down on the Tortoise, in some ways even more so than they do the Scorpion. At least the Scorpion have power and influence going for them. But the Tortoise? They have all the lying, scheming, and slimy underhandedness of the Scorpion without any of the power or threat. Being a minor clan doth have its disadvantages. But for the Tortoise, all this slander and criticism rolls off them just the way that water rolls off the shell of their namesake animal. Insults don't matter. Keeping an eye out for foreign enemies matters. Protecting the Empire from foreign threats matters. And in this way, the Tortoise are just as committed as any more honorable samurai. Any clan can accrue or cling to honor. The Tortoise are among the few who understand that often the greater good may require the sacrifice of honor. Few others understand that. Fewer still both understand and have the guts to do so. But the way of the Tortoise clan decrees nothing less for the safety and security of the Emerald Empire. He used to be called Citizen 625726. He used to call himself Unbroken. When he left his dystopian city behind, he thought he had found paradise. What he found was uglier and darker than anything he could have imagined. This is his story. This is Inferior. Now available in ebook, paperback, and audio form. Links in the description.